So this is the alternative top. So over here we have a piece of plywood wrapped in solid wood with a 45-degree angle cut there to make the top. So to do that, off camera, I cut a piece of plywood that is a 1/4 inch bigger than the cabinet itself. So if I bring it in closer here, you can see that the overhang here is a 1/4, the overhang here is a 1/4, and the overhang, where am I? There I am. Here is a 1/4. So we have that, and then we're going to use these pieces of wood here that I cut up that are 3/4 of an inch thick and 1 inch wide, and those are going to go like this around the project. So next we're going to go to the chop saw, and I'll show you how to make those cuts. Okay, here at the chop saw, we're going to start making these 45-degree angle cuts. To do that, I'm going to start with a long piece where I need to cut it 45 here and 45 here. So I'm just going to draw a gentle reminder to myself that a 45-degree angle looks like this. And then, so I have a little reference of what I'm going for. So at the chop saw, when we want to adjust the cut for a 45-degree angle, we're going to come in here and, sorry for the awkward angle here, I'm by myself. So what we want to do is make sure this little knob's loose, just a little bit, and then we're going to push these handles down and then pivot it until that little tab meets at 45. It kind of locks right into place. There, and then over here, where are we? Okay, I can't see anything here. There we are. Can you see that? I don't know. 45. It's kind of hard to see, but it's the same as the other side. And then we'll go back to 0. So when you see me swivel the saw, that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to make my first cut at 45 degrees to get a reference. 45. Same as usual, you're going to line up your cut. And so there's our 45. Okay, so with our 45 set up like that, I'm also going to cut a 45-degree angle on a different piece, one of the side pieces. So there I have my 245 set up. And then we'll go to the workbench. Set it up like this. So that corner looks nice and tight right there. With that corner looking nice and tight, we're going to go mark the other side. So let me flip that around. Get it like that. And then with my nice sharp pencil and this corner all lined up nice and tight, I'm going to mark the back side of this cut. That didn't look very nice. Let me try over. A nice crisp line to follow, not a ragged line. So I'll just put a little tick mark there rather than a line so I get it a little more accurate there. So a little tick mark right there. Can you see what's going on? Where's the focus? Focus. Lighting. There we are. So there's my little line I just drew. With that line, what I'm going to do is transfer that line with my square. And then use the 45 part of my square to draw my return line. So line that up. Talk about awkward here. Jeez, oh peeps. So now we'll draw that line like that. So this is the part of the material that I want to remove right here. Lighting is wretched. Back over to the bench. Line up that. Off camera, I'll make a quick cut on the other side, 45 degrees. And things look like they're coming together pretty well. Obviously this is long and that's long. So what I'll do is make a little mark here and make a little mark here. Go back to the chop saw, trim those square, and then we'll attach the pieces to the plywood. Okay, so now we're at the table saw, and I know the lighting not the best here, but we got our little board set up here. What I'm going to do is put an X on the top part of the boards, so when the table is finished, it'll look like this, kind of even. So I put the X's on the good side. At this point, what you're going to do is say, hey, Mr. Stevens, I'm ready for the spline cuts on my top. And I'll cut the splines for you. And I'll show you what that looks like so you can kind of expect what the next step's going to be. What I'll do is get the table saw set up so I have a 3/8 of an inch blade sticking above the table. And then I'll also stick 3/8 to the center of the blade. And again, you don't have to worry about that so much, but that's just a way that I'm going to put some grooves for some splines in there so that when we align our project, hopefully everything fits up nice. And go get the dust collectors on and we'll make these cuts. Okay, with our grooves cut in our pieces of wood here, and the groove cut in the top piece here, we're able to put the same kind of splines as we used to assemble our project to install our trim pieces. So I'll see if everything kind of comes together here. X's face up. X's face up. X's face up. And that one's going to be short, but that's okay. It's more for alignment. And then where we going in there? Alright, so there we are. All wrapped together here. 45s. Now we just got to glue it in place and let it sit overnight. Okay, we got this dry clamped here. So we got the 4 clamps holding the 3 pieces of the trim on. So I'm going to take the clamps off, apply some glue, and let it hang out overnight. I don't want to put too much glue on here because I don't want to end up cleaning the glue off of the veneer of that plywood, because there's a chance that glue could chip the veneer off, that thin layer of wood on top. So we kind of be aware of that. So I mean, we're gonna put glue on, but not like sop it on. We're gonna allow the spline to kind of soak up that glue, soak up some of that moisture, hopefully swell a little bit. As it swells, it'll lock and kind of key that into position. So about like that much glue, and then we'll slide it in there and repeat that process. So we're trying not to get a bunch of glue on the top of that project here. It would have been smart of me to get a wet paper towel so I can kind of keep my fingers clean, but I gotta do it with that. It'd hang out for about 2 hours, wait till the glue becomes rubbery, and then peel it off. But anyway, I think I'll go ahead and wait till that glue chips off. And then the same idea, you would route the corners with a router, and then sand it and install it the way you normally would on a different top of the first top we talked about. So that's the alternative top to the glued up boards. Okay. Using this as an example, we can see what I'm talking about. We got that rounded over and rounded over. So that's all I'm talking about. And when you sand, again, we gotta be so careful when we sand this project. We want to sand this way and not sand through the veneer. That's the tricky part about it. Okay. Good luck.